there's a traitor living inside your house. They know your every weakness, your deepest insecurities, your most carefully guarded secrets. They sabotage your relationships, undermine your confidence, and hand your enemies the exact weapons needed to destroy you. This traitor has been with you every single day of your life. They've watched you sleep, heard your private thoughts, witnessed your most shameful moments. And here's the disturbing part. This traitor is you, but not the you think you know. Not the carefully curated version you present to the world, or even the private self you believe you understand. I'm talking about the you that exists in the basement of your consciousness. The you that Carl Jung called the shadow. And if you think you can simply ignore this shadow, pretend it doesn't exist, you're making the most dangerous mistake of your life. Because what you refuse to acknowledge about yourself will control you from the darkness. Here's something that will disturb you. Every person you've ever called fake is actually showing you a piece of yourself you refuse to see. That manipulative colleague who plays political games. They're reflecting your own hidden hunger for power that you've convinced yourself doesn't exist. That friend who smiles while stabbing you in the back. They're mirroring your own capacity for calculated cruelty that you've buried beneath layers of niceness. The arrogance that bothers you in others exists because you've repressed your own grandiose fantasies. The coldness that irritates you reflects your own desire to be ruthlessly detached. The lies that outrage you echo the deceptions you tell yourself every single day. What you call intuition for spotting imposters is actually your shadow recognizing its own reflection in the world. Think about this carefully. When was the last time someone's behavior triggered a visceral reaction in you? Not mild annoyance, but genuine disgust or rage. That intensity isn't coming from their actions alone. It's coming from the part of yourself that you've exiled into the darkness, screaming to be acknowledged. The universe doesn't send you fake people by accident. It sends them as uncomfortable messengers, carrying pieces of your own denied nature back to you. And the more violently you reject the message, the louder the messengers become. Imagine a room with no windows, sealed in absolute darkness. Inside this room, something breathes. You can't see it, but you can feel its presence. Every heartbeat, every quiet moment, you know it's there, waiting. This creature feeds on everything you deny about yourself. Every time you swallow anger and smile instead, it grows stronger. Every time you feel jealous but tell yourself you're happy for them, it gains power. Every time you have a cruel thought and immediately shame yourself for it, this creature in the dark smiles and expands. You think you're being good, moral, civilized by suppressing these aspects of yourself. But here's what Jung understood that most people never will. What you repress doesn't disappear. It goes underground and begins to run your life from the shadows. That sudden explosion of rage that seemed to come from nowhere. That was your shadow taking control. The lie that slipped out so smoothly you surprised yourself. Your shadow speaking through you. That subtle manipulation you didn't even consciously plan. Your shadow pulling the strings. And here's the terrifying part. The more you deny this creature exists, the more power you give it over your conscious mind. You believe you're in control of your life, making conscious decisions, choosing your reactions. But your shadow is the puppet master, and you're dancing to its rhythm without even knowing the music is playing. It chooses who you're attracted to, often people who embody the qualities you've rejected in yourself. It determines who pushes your buttons and why. It even influences your career choices, your friendships, your deepest fears and desires. That pattern of toxic relationships you keep falling into, that's not bad luck. That's your shadow orchestrating encounters with people who will force you to confront what you've been running from. Those same types of fake people who keep appearing in your life, they're not coincidences. They're your unconscious mind's way of pushing you toward the integration you desperately need but consciously resist. The shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to complete you. But as long as you keep it locked in that dark room, it will continue to sabotage you from within. We live in a culture that demands purity, good versus evil, right versus wrong, light versus dark. And somewhere along the way, you bought into the lie that you could be just one side of these equations. You've spent your entire life constructing an identity around being the good one, kind, honest, moral, reasonable. And this addiction to appearing pure is exactly what makes you prey to those who've embraced their darkness. Fake people have power over you precisely because they can sense the fracture between who you are and who you pretend to be. They smell your weakness, not weakness of character, but the weakness that comes from self-deception. The exhausting effort of maintaining a false coherence. They know that someone desperately trying to appear good will bend over backwards to avoid conflict. Someone terrified of their own darkness will do anything to avoid being seen as bad. Someone addicted to being liked will sacrifice their boundaries to maintain the illusion of harmony. Your very desperation to be authentic makes you inauthentic. Your very effort to be genuine makes you fake. Integration of the shadow isn't about becoming evil or giving in to your worst impulses. It's about opening a forbidden store inside yourself and finding the treasure that's been locked away with the monster. Every quality you've rejected in yourself isn't purely negative. Your repressed anger contains your capacity for healthy boundaries. Your denied selfishness holds your ability to prioritize your own needs. Your hidden cruelty houses your strength to make difficult decisions. The parts of yourself you've exiled aren't just your dark qualities, they're also your power, your creativity, your authentic responses to life. By rejecting them, you've cut yourself off from whole dimensions of your own humanity. When you integrate your shadow, something remarkable happens. You stop being triggered by other people's masks. You can see through manipulation, not because you've learned to spot it externally, but because you've recognized it within yourself. You become immune to fake people not because you've built better defenses, but because their tactics no longer hook into anything unconscious within you. There's a paradox here that most people never discover the moment you stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole. You become genuinely good in a way that isn't performance. When you can hold both your light and shadow without judgment, when you can acknowledge your capacity for both love and cruelty, generosity and selfishness, you develop what I call magnetic authenticity. This isn't the shallow authenticity of being yourself, that popular culture promotes. This is the deep authenticity of being all of yourself, the comfortable parts and the uncomfortable ones, the socially acceptable aspects and the forbidden ones. People can sense this wholeness. It creates a gravitational field that attracts those who are genuinely seeking truth and automatically repels those who depend on manipulation and masks. Fake people find authentic people deeply uncomfortable because authenticity exposes the performance they've built their entire identity around. Here's where everything comes together in a way that might shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself and relationships. The world doesn't need you to get better at spotting fake people. It needs you to stop being a prisoner of your own internal falseness. Fake people will always exist. But when you've integrated your shadow, when you've made peace with your own contradictions, when you've stopped running from the parts of yourself you don't like, they lose their power over you completely. They become background noise, shadows that no longer frighten, masks that no longer deceive. The ultimate freedom isn't protection from fake people. It's the liberation that comes from no longer being fake to yourself. So's my challenge. After finish reading this, find or mirror. Look into your own eyes, really look and ask yourself this question. Who am I when absolutely no one is watching? When there's no one to impress, no one to please, no image to maintain? The answer that comes up, the one that makes you uncomfortable, the one you immediately want to argue with or explain away, that's your shadow speaking. And for the first time in your life, instead of turning away, try listening. Because the conversation you have with that reflection will determine whether you spend the rest of your life as prey to other people's masks, or whether you finally step into the magnetic power of being completely, authentically, unapologetically yourself. The choice has always been yours. The only question is, are you finally ready to make it? The shadow is waiting. It's been patient. It's been in that dark room your entire life, holding pieces of your power, your creativity, your authentic responses to the world. It's time to open the door. Not because it's comfortable, but because your freedom depends on it. And freedom, real freedom, is worth any amount of temporary discomfort. The fake people in your life are just the invitation. The real work, the work that will transform everything, happens in the space between you and that mirror. What will you find there? There's only one way to know.